Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Drew.
And this is our weekly pull list review for September 14th. So before we get into this, just a quick piece of information. We will be doing last week's poll list next week.
Yeah.
So
it'll be the early, like the Monday or Tuesday when it comes out.
Right. So next week will be 2 poll list episodes. And that's because there was a bunch of good stuff last week. So instead of just skipping it, we figured we'd go back and read it now. This week we have 2 titles. We have Doom Patrol number 1 and The Fix number 5. So let's start off with the number 1. This is Doom Patrol, Gerard Way, Nick Darrington, and Tamra Bonvillain.
You know, I kind of want you to introduce this one because you know more about Doom Patrol than me.
Right.
And to me, this was a bunch of like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, I understand that there's like a world living inside this gyro, and there's a robot man. I assume he's from the gyro.
Yeah.
And then there's an EMT and some kind of magician.
Right. So Doom Patrol is kind of known for being Grant Morrison's epic, ridiculously just twisted, psychedelic kind of thing. It's sort of like that old Kirby Fantastic Four thing. It's him taking that to its like limits of just far out, other dimensional craziness, non sequitur kind of setups, and just really weird out there shit. This is a complete reimagining of it. So there's some characters that are old, like Niles Calder is a character from the original Doom Patrol.
He doesn't really play a big role in this issue, though.
No, I love his page. He has a page, and it's great. And Robot Man is one of the main guys. Cliff is one of the main dudes. And one of the big things about Doom Patrol is it's very existential. It's very much about everybody having sort of this group existential crisis together about who they are and what it means to be alive and to be a hero, and a lot of searching. Everyone's searching for meaning in Doom Patrol. And it seems like those are the 2 main themes that we have here. We have like these different characters, and we don't really know what the hell's going on, and they don't seem to know either.
Right.
And we have a lot of crazy extra-dimensional nonsense. So that's all I can say, because I agree. The story is completely what the fuck, which is the point.
Okay. So, being what the fuck and everything, I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
I did too.
The dialogue is pretty strong. Like, I'm surprised by Gerard Way. Like, that's something I thought I would say.
Yeah.
At any point in my life, but I am.
Yeah, it's great. Strong dialogue that's just this side of like unnatural. You know, it never quite feels like how people talk, but it kind of does. It
feels like how people would talk if they were better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and if they lived in the world of superheroes and
that too.
Magic and all this crazy existential stuff happening all the time around them, right? You would people would probably be more like this, and I think that's what we're getting at here.
Yeah, because all you could really be is philosophical, because there's nothing like concrete really to sink your teeth into. Like, you know what the fuck's gonna happen ever.
Right. So everybody's kind of looser with their ideas of the world around them.
Which is also very existential, because it's like an absence of metaphysics and absolutes and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe also like pragmatic by that definition.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't. What can you rest your laurels on when
other than what you're fucking experiencing? Like,
right.
That's all you got.
Right. So this thing goes all over the place. It's not really an issue where we can say here's the plot and here's what happened, because it's not that kind of thing. It's very non sequitur. I think non sequitur is like the main word for this whole thing. It's just seemingly unconnected events that people respond to in weird ways, right?
Well, you can draw loose connections. Like, I was able to figure out that the robot man was from the gyro.
Right.
So
I do like what's being set up here. I love Niles Calder. I really love Cliff, Robot Man Cliff. We getting a little jumpiness.
Yeah. People probably aren't watching it anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people just listen anyhow.
Yeah.
So it'll be
It's like the other tab while you're doing something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I really love Robot Man, so it was kind of a bummer to see him get like knocked to bits immediately.
That was probably the point, though. They're
Right.
probably like, this is, everybody's favorite character, so let's like introduce him and then just like find a way to fuck that off for a
Right.
while. Yeah.
Right, which I really liked about it, but it was like, oh man, I wanted to see him walk around and call people names and kind of
that's eliciting a response. Like
Right.
that's the idea.
Right, yeah, he's completely going left when you think he's going to go right, which is pretty great.
Yeah, he's got his zigs and his zags all crossed, befuddled.
All in, did you like the characters? How about like this main supposed character? What was her name? Claire or Casey?
Casey. Yeah, I liked her.
I did
Seems
too.
like very. It's not like purity necessarily, but just a very like upstanding kind of person.
Here's
a real do-gooder.
Here's what I think's great about her character. She is clearly like the kid of somebody, probably involved in the old Doom Patrol or something.
Sure.
And so she has this crazy life that she grew up out of, which is one of the only things that I felt like was really clear in this. She was talking about how like aliens attacked her prom and like,
Right.
So she grew up in this crazy environment. And so throughout this issue, even though like all this crazy stuff is happening, she's just like, oh, I better pick up these parts. And then like the lady comes in and dances and kills the guy. And she's like, yeah, I guess you can have the bed.
Right, yeah, that's the next thing I was going to mention. She's just very like accepting of all this bizarre ass shit that's happening.
Which is going to
The magician came to my door and danced and made my roommate explode, and then I guess she can move in if she wants to.
Yeah. So I think that idea for a main character in something that's going to be a crazy psychedelic trip is perfect.
Fantastic idea.
Because she's just going to walk through it and be like, okay, this is cool,
Yeah, I bet we're going to get a secondary character too at some point that's like just totally the opposite of that. Like she's romantic com and they're like, did you see what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like, why am I the only one freaking out in this situation?
Right. Possibly.
This seems,
Possibly. But one of the signatures of the old Doom Patrol is that they were all just totally like head in. Like, cool, let's do it.
Well,
like
her little EMT partner guy seemed kind of that way.
Yeah.
It's like, you like my son. He's weird too.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely better than anything out of Rebirth that I've read.
Hell yeah.
By a long shot. So I'm super into it, even if I don't know what the hell is happening yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this will make it into the top for me. But yeah, it's way better than Rebirth.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a little too hard to follow yet to be in the top. This might end up being a Paper Girls kind of situation where we sit on it and like it okay, and hopefully it...
6 issues down the line, we're like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, so we'll see. On that note, we have decided to pull all Young Animal stuff and at least check out the #1, so you can look forward to that, I suppose.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Back to you, Josh.
Art, do you want to talk about the art in this at all before we move on? It's strangely, I felt, standard for as crazy as the story is.
Mm-hmm. It's a very standard way of predicting really bizarre shit a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I like some of the little more colored pencil kind of feeling
I did
parts
too.
in here.
The whole stuff with Robot Man inside the gyro.
Mm-hmm. But that was like a standout.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on. Let's talk about the other thing that we read this week. This was The Fix by Spencer Lieber Hill and Ironbark.
Ironbark?
Ironbark. It's a pretty badass name. It's like
we're getting some great last
like
names.
a death metal band or something.
We should have like the top last names of the month.
Him and Jampole could probably start a band.
Exactly. Ironbark and Jampole.
Jampole Ironbark, yeah.
I named my fucking kid that. That's awesome. Previously in The Fix, there was that Miley Cyrus kind of facsimile that got shot, and they're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. And we're getting really back on
Roy.
Yeah, so we're back on Roy. And I have to say, this time around, reading Roy, like, at first, it kind of took a while to accept, like, okay, yeah, Roy's kind of a psychotic piece of shit. Like, you're probably a sociopath, 11 out of 10. And then, we went and had stories with Mac for a while. Now we're back to Roy. It's just like, this guy's clearly a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I have less and less sympathy or empathy for him, like, every issue.
Agreed.
Which I think is cool. It's like you start someone out, a good guy, and then just kind of just drag him down and down and down. And down.
Yeah, just completely through the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what makes this so good. Right? The whole thing hinges on him just being awful.
Well, a lot of these people are awful.
Right.
And Mac is awful. Their boss, Josh, is awful.
Right.
His boss that's made an appearance but hasn't said anything in this issue, he's probably fucking awful.
Yeah, Donovan is awful.
Donovan is crazy awful.
Terrible, terrible people.
Even, I mean, like, maybe the internal affairs lady, she's, like, the most kind of okay, but...
And she also seems kind of like a terrible person.
Awful. Right, yeah.
It's still a comedy, and I think most of the comedy is really, like, blue? Is that what it's called? You know, it's just... Almost all of the jokes are jokes that you almost feel like you shouldn't laugh at most of the time. You know, they're just kind of dark and mean-spirited, or they're only funny because he's such an awful guy. And
or immature, and there's a lot of Donovan, really, especially.
Yeah, it's just cum and cocks and...
Yeah.
But somehow it doesn't, even though it's all... Like, the veneer is so juvenile and immature and just kind of gross and mean. It doesn't, the book itself doesn't come off as either immature or mean. Mm-hmm. Like, somehow it still has this weird exuberance that feels kind of like Ant-Man or a lot of the other stuff Spencer does, where it still somehow feels fun and light and enjoyable, even though it's like everybody's awful.
Yeah, it's oddly clever. I think maybe it's just like the a lot of the cognitive dissonance that we do with the characters. I think really plays that up. But yeah, it's just like every time you set somebody up to be a little bit of a good guy, they just like, nope, fuck that. You know, wait till you hear the next fucking thing out of my mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just he's playing with form a lot with this. So he continue, because in your normal story you have a good guy with a touch of like shittiness, right? And they redeem like the bad qualities about themselves by the actions that they do in the long run, you know, like the scoundrel with the heart, right? But it's the opposite here. So every time the normal note in a story would go that other direction, where okay, he does the shitty thing but then he turns around and he fixes it. Like, he does the shitty thing, and then you turn around and
you see shittier thing.
That, like, the shitty thing was him covering and trying to look like a nice guy. Like, that was his attempt to not be shitty. Right. And it's really just a veneer over, like, a much shittier part of him, right?
Yeah, this book is crazy. Man. Anything else about it?
I don't know. It's, you know, it's more the same. That is the one thing. Every issue kind of feels like the others. I've started to feel like I know what I'm in for when I read it, which isn't necessarily a knock, but it, you know, when we're critiquing it like this, it becomes harder to really give any meaningful critique because it is a little bit one note. Yeah,
it's hard to, I think, keep a funny book fresh in that kind of way. I mean, even Fairyland, which managed to keep it fresh for the first little bit, you know, these last couple issues have been kind of feeling like the same, you know, and Ant-Man, which we love to death, if I had to criticize it in one way, it would be that.
And the main thing he does with Ant-Man, by the way, to keep it fresher is he brings in a lot of new characters. There's always new characters, whereas with this...
We get a few here and there. Pretzels is new.
But especially this issue, I think that's why this one felt a little more samey, because it's really just back on Roy and focuses on him because we moved away from him last issue. So to me, I don't feel like I'm gaining any new character perspectives, which makes it a little less fresh feeling.
I feel like you're kind of backtracking, like exposition-wise or something like that.
Right.
I could see that.
Treading old ground, kind of, in terms of character development at least. But other than that, it's still a lot of fun. Yeah. I laughed out loud a couple of times reading it, you know, over the course of 20-some pages. That's pretty good. I got a lot of chuckles.
Sit here for the next couple minutes and just recant like funny parts about it. You know? And again, it's a 20-page book.
Yeah. So it's definitely a good hit. I still love this book. I think It's hard to think of anybody who wouldn't find something
People that
like
are
in this.
sensitive.
That's it. People that are uncomfortable with sort of dark or blue humor are probably not gonna like it. But anybody else, yeah.
I think if you've used the term microaggression with conviction,
Right. Yeah.
you probably wouldn't like that. Literally anybody else is gonna love it.
I think so as well. Cool. That's it. We just had the 2 this week. And again, just one more time, we're going to do last week's next week, along with next week's 2 separate episodes. What did you guys think of that Doom Patrol? Did you like it? Is there a story that we're missing? Can anybody connect those dots yet? Or is that just, is that just the way it is?
Things will never be the same. Oh, yeah.